When we were little, my childhood best friend, Tyler Carter, loved to secretly read my diary. To teach him a lesson, I wrote something fake in it on purpose. Mom told me that Tyler and I are actually her biological children. It's just that Tyler was too naughty, so he was sent to live with our uncle, who's a police officer, only he could handle him. After that day, Tyler's attitude toward me completely changed. Whenever there was good food, he'd let me eat first. If there was a cool toy, I got to play with it first. If anyone picked on me, he'd immediately step in and take care of it. He treated me like I was his real little sister, completely protective. That continued all the way through high school, up until the day a classmate confessed his feelings for me. The class went wild, teasing us. But Tyler just quietly walked away. That night, he got drunk and ended up sitting on the curb, crying and making a scene. When I rushed over, he pushed me away and muttered, "You don't deserve someone like me to treat you this well." His eyes were filled with a heartbreaking sadness. I fell in love with someone who might be my own sister. I'm such a terrible person. That summer, right after the college entrance exams, everyone was partying hard. Although we had already graduated, our class group chat was still buzzing. We decided to throw a little get-together before heading off to college, and picked our usual hangout spot, a family diner downtown in Austin. My best friend texted me. "How are you getting there? Want me to bike over and pick you up?" I replied, "No need, Tyler's taking me." She sighed and didn't say much else. "Just the fact that you have a childhood friend like him is enough to make people jealous," she said. Then she started reminiscing about our 3 years in high school. Tyler, good-looking, charming, picked me up every morning, brought me warm water when it was cold. And when I got sick, he was the first to take me to the nurse's office and stayed by my side the whole time. If we had a late class, he waited until I left before heading home. Every year on my birthday, he always prepared a gift. She ended with, "Honestly, I'm too jealous for words." I felt a little smug, but I shrugged it off. It's not that big of a deal. Tyler and I have known each other since we were like 5 or 6. Our houses are right across the street from each other, and we even went to the same preschool. Our parents are close, always visiting each other's homes. Over time, we became the best of friends, a dynamic duo. But Tyler could be a real troublemaker sometimes. He used to pull my braids, or sneak around just to jump out and scare me. When I cried, his mom would drag him home and scold him like crazy. I once overheard Tyler's mom say, "You're not allowed to bully your little sister." Tyler clearly knew he was in the wrong, but still stubbornly replied, "She's not even my real sister." In his mind, only a sister by blood, same mother, same birth, counted as a real sister. We kept up this cycle of fighting and making up all the way until 3rd grade. That's when Tyler picked up another bad habit, sneaking peeks at my diary. And not just reading it, he loved retelling what I wrote to other kids, like it was the latest gossip. I was furious and decided it was time to teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. So one day, I wrote in my diary, "Today, Mom told me a secret. Turns out, Tyler is actually my biological brother. He's older than me, so he's technically my big brother. But he was so mischievous when he was little that Mom couldn't handle him. So she sent him to live with Uncle Jack, who's a strict cop. Mom said Uncle Jack and Aunt Linda love him like their own and will never reveal the truth, even if he finds out someday, they'll never admit it." Man. I never thought it'd work that well. Of course, Tyler read the diary, just as I expected. That day in class, he seemed out of it. The teacher even hit his hand with a ruler for not paying attention. On the way home, he didn't say a single word. But every so often, he'd glance at me with this confused, searching look in his eyes. I had to admit, my plan worked like magic. After that, Tyler started treating me like I really was his little sister. He'd buy snacks and drinks for me, helped scare off boys who picked on me, and even thumped his chest like a big shot, saying, "Eat your veggies. Don't worry, I'll always protect you." I figure. Maybe after a month or two, he figured out I made the whole thing up. I mean, anyone with half a brain would realize it was just a prank. But he never called me out on it. Instead, he just accepted it. Looking after me became his habit. And that habit lasted for years, through elementary school, middle school, and even high school. He became that childhood friend everyone admired, but he belonged to me alone. By the time we got to high school, Tyler and I weren't in the same class anymore. That day, he biked me to the meetup. Before heading off, he said, "Text me when you're done. I'll come pick you up." I took off my helmet and handed it to him. "Okay. It's super hot today," I said. Tyler pulled off his helmet too and ran his fingers through his sweat-soaked hair. He had fair skin and slightly upturned, dreamy eyes that always gave off a soft, charming vibe. The sunlight hit his face, and he squinted, about to turn his bike around. But just then, a few guys from my class spotted him. They ran over excitedly, shouting, and half-dragged, half-pushed him inside the restaurant. "What are you doing, man? Come hang out, we all know each other anyway." That's right, even though Tyler was in the class next door, he dropped by ours so often it was like his second home. Everyone knew who he was. He wasn't the shy type either. Seeing the guys calling him in, he didn't hesitate and casually took a seat. We had all just graduated, and it felt like everyone was trying to act a little more grown-up. Someone ordered an entire case of beer. We drank and chatted about everything under the sun. Tyler didn't say much. Instead, he quietly took every beer that someone tried to hand to me. I wasn't even 18 yet, and technically, not allowed to drink. Meanwhile, Tyler drank calmly, one can at a time. I reminded him. "Aren't you biking home later? Maybe call a ride. Just don't drink too much." He laughed, his tone teasing. All right. You talk too much." As the gathering came to an end, the lively atmosphere turned a bit sentimental. Our class president stood up and said, "This might be the last time some of us ever see each other. If anyone has something to say it now. Let's not leave with regrets." I was getting lost in the bittersweet vibe of it all when suddenly, the lights in the room shut off. Startled, I instinctively reached for Tyler's hand. He gently patted the back of my hand and whispered, "It's okay." Just then, someone came in carrying a birthday cake and a bouquet of flowers. Even in the dim light, I could see who it was clearly. It was my classmate, Ethan. His cheeks were flushed red as he carefully set the cake, candles flickering brightly, in front of me. "Angela," he said, "I know your birthday isn't today, but I wanted to be the first to wish you a happy birthday." I froze, staring at him. Tyler quietly let go of my hand. Ethan continued. "Angela, if you're willing, on your real birthday, can I spend it with you?" Everyone started cheering and hollering. Their excitement seemed to give Ethan a bit more courage. He held out the bouquet to me. "I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" The girls beside me squealed and pulled me up to my feet, guiding me to face Ethan. My mind went completely blank. Out of instinct, I turned to look for Tyler, but he was gone. At some point, he had left the room. Without saying a word, I finally found him sitting alone on the curb, staring out at the empty street ahead. His eyes looked blank, unfocused, like he wasn't really seeing anything around him. In his hand, he was holding an unopened can of beer. I walked over. "What are you doing out here? I've been looking all over for you." Tyler looked up at me, squinting as if only just realizing it was me. Then he lowered his head again, saying nothing. He looked so lost, it was honestly a little heartbreaking. I crouched down beside Tyler and poked his cheek. "Come on, let's go home." I reached for his hand, trying to pull him up. "Why did you drink so much? You're gonna wake up with a headache tomorrow. Drink some honey water when you get home, it helps. And if you still don't feel well, call me, okay? I'll go buy you something to help sober up." But Tyler suddenly shoved my hand away, hard. I stumbled back a few steps, staring at him in disbelief. Then I got mad. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Tyler rubbed his face roughly and said in a low voice. "I don't need you worrying about me. I don't deserve to be treated this well by you." I let out a breath. "Why not?" He looked up at me, his eyes filled with deep sorrow. "Because I fell for my own sister. I'm disgusting." In that moment, 1,000 thoughts rushed through my head: shock, confusion, panic. And then I remembered that diary entry I wrote back in 3rd grade. The one I made up as a prank, just to teach him a lesson. I looked at him and pointed to my temple. "Tyler, are you seriously out of your mind? That was a dumb joke I made when we were kids. And you believed it all these years?" I remembered how he had a high fever once as a kid, maybe that affected his brain more than I thought. But Tyler wasn't listening anymore. He just kept muttering to himself. "I'm awful. I'm so awful." I tried not to laugh and nudged his leg with my foot. "Hey. That diary entry? I made that up." But Tyler didn't react. I leaned in to look more closely. He had fallen asleep, head hanging low. I couldn't carry him on my own, so I had to call a few friends to help me get him home. By the time we made it back, I was completely wiped out and flopped down on the sofa. But my brain was buzzing. Aside from the fact that Tyler Carter was such an idiot, it was almost cute. One very important word stuck out in my mind, the word he let slip. Like. He said he liked me. I hugged a pillow and rolled back and forth, kicking my legs in excitement. The truth was, I had liked him for a long time, too. He was handsome, always protecting me since we were kids, and always so gentle with me. How could I not fall for someone like him? The truth is, I'd already made up my mind. Before heading off to college, I was going to confess my feelings to him. I never imagined I'd hear his confession first. I decided, tomorrow, I'm going to find him and tell him everything. God, why does time move so slowly? Early the next morning, I rushed over to Tyler's house. His uncle was just about to head out for work. "You're here early today," he chuckled. I felt a little awkward. "Hi, sir. Has Tyler woken up yet?" "Yeah, surprisingly he got up early today. He's in his room. Can I go see him?" He nodded, grabbed his keys, and stepped outside. I stood in front of Tyler's bedroom door. My heart started racing. I took a few deep breaths to calm down. Just as I raised my hand to knock, I heard his voice from inside. He was on the phone. "I drank too much last night. Can't even remember half of what happened. Damn, my head is pounding." I almost laughed as I remembered the chaos from the night before. His voice was hoarse. "It was Angela who brought me home. Don't say anything weird, it's not what you think. I only see her as a little sister, that's it." My smile slowly faded. Tyler kept talking. "Honestly, my type is more like confident, sexy older girls. Angela's just a kid. She doesn't attract me at all. There's no way I could ever see her as anything else." Then he laughed nervously. "Man, I'm kinda worried. I was totally wasted last night. What if I said something dumb? Hope nobody recorded anything. That'd be so embarrassing." Just a few short sentences. But they were enough to completely crush the feelings I had nursed all night long. I stood frozen outside his door. I couldn't even tell what was real and what wasn't anymore. But those words, they made me angry. Right then, I didn't feel like talking to him anymore. I quietly stepped away from the door, ready to go home. Just then, I heard the doorknob click behind me. Tyler walked out, yawning. When he saw me standing in the living room, he paused mid-step, startled. "Angela? When did you get here?" I stared at him, my mind replaying everything I had just overheard. Angela's just a kid. No attraction at all. Could never like her. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and acted like nothing was wrong. I came to ask you something. Tyler scratched his messy hair and gave me a lazy smile. Shoot. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, I've said yes to Ethan's confession. He's my boyfriend now. I said it with a fake shy smile, eyes cast downward. I want to get him a gift, but I don't know what to give. What do guys usually like? Tyler's smile froze for a split second. But only for a moment. He quickly returned to his usual self, yawning as he walked toward the bathroom. Whatever, he replied flatly. If he really likes you, he'll be happy no matter what you give him. I couldn't read anything unusual in his expression. But somehow, an odd hollowness spread through my chest. It seemed like everything he said that night on the sidewalk was really just drunk talk. And thinking about it now, that made sense. That dumb joke I wrote in my childhood diary? Why would anyone actually believe that? Tyler wasn't an idiot. Still, underneath the disappointment, there was this strange flicker of relief. Thank God I didn't barge into his room earlier and confess everything out of impulse. If he had rejected me, maybe we wouldn't even be able to stay friends. I'll head out now, I said quietly, then turned and quickly left his house. In my rush, I didn't hear the loud crash of things falling in the bathroom behind me. I didn't dwell on it either. A few days later, I went out shopping with my best friend, Claire Thompson. Now that we'd graduated high school, we could finally dress however we wanted, no more rules or uniforms. I tried a bit of makeup, wore a short skirt and an off-shoulder top, the kind we were never allowed to wear before. But the moment I stepped out the door, I ran straight into Tyler, who was just getting back with the trash. He wore a loose tank top like someone's grandpa, flip-flops, and his hair was a total mess, classic Tyler. He looked up and froze when he saw me. I was a little nervous, but acted cool, twirling the freshly curled strand of hair by my ear. What are you staring at? If you think I look cute, just say so. Tyler looked at me, puzzled. Where are you going dressed like that? I blurted. I'm going. But stopped halfway. Going where? Why am I explaining myself to him? Who is Tyler Carter to me? I snapped back. Where I go isn't really your business, is it? I walked off, humming a tune, deliberately casual as I left the apartment complex. Behind me, I heard him call out. Angela. Are you going on a date with Ethan? He jogged to catch up and stepped in front of me, blocking my way. He took a deep breath, clenched his jaw, and asked, What time are you planning to come back? I shrugged. Who knows? I'll head home when I'm done having fun. Because of that little shrug, my off-shoulder top slipped down slightly. Tyler immediately reached out and tugged my shirt back up. I frowned. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? Nothing, he said, forcing an awkward smile. Just, come back early, okay? If you don't, I swear I'll tell your parents. I glared at Tyler. You tattletale. I'm not talking to you anymore. I've got plans, and I'm gonna be late. With that, I pushed past him, hailed a cab, and left. Sitting in the back seat, I replayed his strange behavior from earlier. I sighed inwardly. Yeah, he really does only see me as a little sister. Or maybe not even that, more like a daughter. He nags even more than my own parents. That night, I got carried away hanging out. Lost track of time completely. By the time I headed home, it was already past 9 p.m. My phone had died too, battery totally gone. Thankfully, I had just enough loose change in my purse to grab a taxi. I followed the familiar path to my apartment. But as I reached the front steps, I nearly screamed. A figure sitting on the porch startled me. The motion sensor light flicked on. That's when I realized it was Tyler. He stood up the moment he saw me. Still wearing the same clothes from this morning. But now his arms and legs were covered in red mosquito bites. His hair was a mess, and he looked utterly exhausted. Tyler marched up to me. Why are you getting home so late? I tried calling, but your phone was off. His eyes scanned me from head to toe, then narrowed. Why are you wearing different clothes? I went shopping with Claire and changed into something I bought, that's all. Before I could explain more, his eyes landed on the small pastry box in my hand. His face darkened immediately. Ethan's allergic to mango, remember? Please tell me you didn't eat any. Are you serious? I frowned. Of course not. I bought this for my mom to have as a late-night snack. I looked at him, confused. Tyler, what is going on with you today? You're acting weird. He didn't say anything. I had no idea what he was thinking. He just gave a faint, bitter smile. Right. You were out with your boyfriend. It's got nothing to do with me, anyway. Then he wiped his face, turned around, and walked home. I stood there stunned, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Later that night, after I finally charged my phone, I called Claire and told her everything. She practically screamed into the receiver. He's jealous. Oh my God, he's so totally jealous. Angela, the ship we've all been rooting for might finally set sail. I was speechless. Jealous? Yes. Trust me, Claire said confidently. I've read tons of romance novels, watched every K-drama, I've got experience. Tyler Carter is absolutely, definitely jealous. I felt a flutter of excitement, but still wasn't fully convinced. But, remember? I lied and told him I'd already said yes to Ethan's confession. He didn't react at all. Exactly. Claire shouted. That's what makes it weird. If he really didn't care, he would have teased you, congratulated you, or at least joked around. But he didn't. She continued, nearly hysterical on the other end. Think about it. If your childhood best friend suddenly got a boyfriend, how would you react? I paused to consider. I guess I'd be happy for her, joke around, maybe tease her a little, celebrate with her. Exactly. Claire said. Not sulk and sit outside her house like a kicked puppy. Claire smirked with a knowing look. And what about your boy, Tyler Carter? That cold, hands-off reaction? Please. He was pretending not to care, but inside? Total chaos. She clearly had too much free time. She started analyzing every little thing Tyler did last night. Her final conclusion. He's 100% jealous. After we hung up, I lay on my bed, heart pounding, unable to calm down. I decided to follow Claire's plan. Time to test him, just a little. The next morning, my mom asked me to bring some steamed buns over to Tyler's house. His parents were always busy, rarely home. It had been that way since we were kids. I handed him the buns while he was having breakfast. Then, right as he started eating, I pulled out my phone and pretended to call Claire, all in front of him. I raised my voice slightly and said, Hey, baby, what are you up to? Pfft. Tyler spat out his soy milk, coughing like crazy. I glanced over at him in concern, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. He looked like he wanted to bury his head in the bowl of porridge. I could barely hold in my laughter. I kept going with my fake phone call, whispering sweetly. I miss you too. When are we going out again? Suddenly, Tyler shot up from his chair, knocking over the entire bowl on the table. He scrambled to clean up the mess, then picked everything up and hurried into the kitchen. Claire, still on the other end of the line, was cracking up. See? See? He totally panicked. That's textbook jealousy. After faking the end of the call, Tyler came back out from the kitchen. I glanced at him. Even though he tried to act normal, he was clearly upset. I was holding in my laughter so hard, I was practically dying on the inside. Claire was right, if we were really just friends, he would have joked about the call, teased me a little. But the more he pretended not to care, the more obvious it was that he did. Tyler, I cleared my throat and called out. He looked up at me, blinking. You're so bored, aren't you? No, I've got something to tell you. I've got to head over to school and pick up my diploma. They messed up my name the first time and it's finally been fixed. Cool, he muttered. All right then, see you later, I said as I stepped out the door. Perfect timing. The weather was nice, ideal atmosphere for a confession. I walked home practically skipping. Even my mom noticed. All you did was drop off some buns at Tyler's, and now you're glowing like you just won the lottery. I just giggled and ran to my room, already thinking about how I was going to confess that evening. But before the evening came, around 3 p.m., Claire suddenly called. Her voice panicked. Angela, something's happened. Tyler got into it with Ethan. Claire's mom used to be our homeroom teacher back in high school, so when something happened, she always heard it before anyone else. She told me that Tyler Carter had gone to school this afternoon to pick up his diploma. And by pure chance, ran into Ethan on a date with one of the girls from our class. Without a word, Tyler went straight at him and punched him. But Ethan wasn't exactly the quiet type either. The two of them got into a full-on fistfight and were now both in the school nurse's office. I hung up the phone and bolted out the door, running as fast as I could to school. My head was spinning. This is bad. Really bad. In the end, this was my fault. I was the one who made Tyler believe I'd actually accepted Ethan's confession. So now, from his perspective, Ethan was my boyfriend. Then he sees my boyfriend on a date with another girl? Of course he'd assume Ethan was two-timing me. It didn't take long for me to piece it all together. When I reached the nurse's office, the first thing I saw was Ethan. A nurse was holding his head still while dabbing antiseptic on a cut. His face was twisted in pain. Next to him sat a girl with red-rimmed eyes, hovering nervously, unable to take her eyes off him. She looked familiar, probably from class 4. Claire once told me there was a girl in class 4 who liked Ethan. Apparently, after I turned him down, she confessed to him. Judging by what I was seeing, they were probably dating now. And suddenly, I felt really guilty. Without thinking much more, I walked straight up to them and apologized. I didn't realize that at the far end of the hallway, someone had been standing there quietly, watching me for a long time. Tyler had just come out of the nurse's office, medicine in hand, when he saw me rushing in. But instead of coming to him, I went straight to Ethan. I didn't even ask if Tyler was okay. A dull, bitter ache spread in his chest. He looked down at the pack of medicine in his hand, lips curling into a dry smile, like he was trying to convince himself to stay composed. In Tyler's eyes, I was always wonderful, except I had terrible taste in people. Ethan, average-looking, unimpressive grades, and yet still had the nerve to two-time someone? Why him? It was Tyler who'd known me longer. It was Tyler who'd always been there. If anyone should have been first in my heart, it should have been him. Even though he didn't seem thrilled about it, Ethan still ended up forgiving me. I let out a breath of relief, gave the new couple some space, and rushed out to look for Tyler. But the nurse told me he had already left. I stood there stunned. He left? Wasn't he hurt? Yes, the nurse said, clearly annoyed. Those boys really went at it. No one held back. I turned away for just a second, and when I looked back, he was gone. I immediately ran back home and started banging on Tyler's front door. Aunt Linda, Tyler's mom, had just gotten back from a business trip that morning and was the one who answered the door. Angela, you're here already? She said with a light laugh. Hi, Auntie. Is Tyler home? I asked. Yeah, he is. He's in his room, probably sleeping. Just got back a little while ago, his face was all bruised up. She chuckled. Said he fell off his bike or something, didn't really explain where or how. I stood there, frozen for a moment, a strange knot of unease building up in my chest. Aunt Linda had always been, well, a little absent-minded. Tyler could lie with a straight face, and she'd never even question it. Back when we were kids, both Aunt Linda and Uncle Jack were constantly busy with work and rarely around. In preschool, she used to forget to pick Tyler up. He was always the last kid waiting at the gate. I remember being so worried he'd feel sad, so I'd beg my mom to take him home with us. In elementary school, they'd forget to feed him breakfast. He never complained, just quietly went to school hungry. I was the one who noticed eventually. Even though I was just a little girl, I had a big sense of justice. One morning, I finally worked up the courage. Right as Aunt Linda was rushing out the door, I told her that Tyler came to school hungry every morning. She was startled but didn't say much. That memory hit me all over again as I stood staring at Tyler's bedroom door. Aunt Linda had said he was sleeping, so I didn't want to disturb him. I went back home, checking my phone over and over. Still no reply from him. Maybe he really was asleep. All day, I felt unsettled. I worried about him, and at the same time, guilt gnawed at me for being the one who caused all this. By evening, my mom had finished cooking and was packing up a meal to take next door. "Where are you going?" I asked. Linda went out again. "Tyler's home alone, and she said he's running a bit of a fever. She asked me to check on him." I jumped up from the couch. "Let me go. I'll take it to him." Before she could reply, I snatched the lunchbox from her hands and ran out the door like a storm. I knew the code to Tyler's door. This time, I was too anxious to even knock. I just keyed it in and walked straight in. "Tyler. I heard you had a fever. Wait, are you showering?" I stopped dead in my tracks. He had just stepped out of the bathroom, water still dripping from his hair. Tyler froze too. He was only wearing a pair of sleep shorts. Bare-chested, with lean, well-defined muscles that weren't exaggerated but just effortlessly attractive. The kind of look that mixed boy-next-door charm with subtle strength, hot, but not overdone. I blinked. Not bad at all. Tyler immediately turned red and dashed back into his room, slamming the door behind him. Feeling a little flustered myself, I waved my hands in front of my face to cool down. Barely 3 seconds later, he came back out, now wearing a tank top like a proper gentleman. I pointed to the lunchbox. "Eat up. It's still warm." He didn't say anything, just sat down obediently at the table. He still looked pretty out of it, tired, eating slowly, clearly uncomfortable. I reached out and touched his forehead. Tyler froze mid-bite, jaw tightening. "You've definitely still got a fever," I frowned. "Finish eating, then go rest. I'll run out and get you some medicine." He kept his head down, muttered a soft mm. When I came back with the meds, I found him curled up under his blanket, sweating lightly, his cheeks flushed. I took his temperature, 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. I quickly gave him the medicine, then pulled a chair over and sat beside his bed, keeping watch. Even in sleep, his brows were still furrowed. A bruise from the earlier fight was still visible on his cheek. I gently reached out and touched it. He winced in his sleep. I sighed quietly, but just as I looked up, I realized Tyler had opened his eyes at some point. "Feeling any better? Want some water?" I asked. He didn't reply, just stared at me silently for a moment. Then, in a raspy voice, he mumbled, "Angela, break up with that guy. Don't date Ethan. He's no good." I propped my chin on my hand and looked at him. "Why not?" "He just isn't," Tyler said weakly, lips barely moving, clearly not fully awake. He looked kind of adorable like this. Suddenly, I felt like teasing him a little. "Alright," I said playfully, "I'll break up with him. But if I do that, I won't have a boyfriend anymore." I leaned in closer. "So you'll have to make it up to me." Tyler blinked at me, dazed and confused. "With you," I added, reaching out to pinch his cheek gently. "Tyler Carter, will you be my boyfriend?" He stared at me for several seconds, like he was trying to process what he'd just heard. Then, slowly, he reached a hand out from under the blanket, and gently pushed my hand away. His voice was barely audible. "I'm not good enough for you." I started to get annoyed. You are good enough. Tyler looked like he wanted to bury himself into the blankets completely. It's okay. I'll help you find someone better. Now I was really frustrated. I cupped his face in both hands, leaned in, and planted a soft kiss on his cheek. I told you, you're good enough. Tyler went completely stiff. Maybe it was the fever, but Tyler's reactions were slower than usual. Still, the moment he processed what just happened, he immediately pushed me away. We can't, this is wrong. His expression was full of panic and emotional conflict. Why is it wrong? I pressed. Tyler looked at me, tortured. You already know, we can't be together. We're siblings. I froze. So, his drunken words that night hadn't been nonsense. He really believed it. That prank I wrote in my childhood diary, he had believed it all this time. Guilt flooded through me. That's not true. I blurted out. I made that up. It was a joke. Tyler looked dazed and confused. Back then, you kept sneaking peeks at my diary, so I wrote that on purpose to teach you a lesson. I never thought you'd actually believe it. Seeing him like that, I decided it was time to come clean, all of it. Tyler, I like you. I mean it. What about you? Do you like me too? He stayed silent for a long while. But it was like he didn't even hear my last question. He just slowly curled up in the blanket again and mumbled. So, I really am my parents' biological son? I stared at him, stunned. And in that moment, everything clicked. Why had he believed that fake diary entry as if it were absolute truth? Why did he act like he didn't care, even after years of being neglected by his parents? Because deep down, he used those fake words to comfort himself. To soothe the loneliness, the silent pain he never spoke about. He just lay there, completely still. I worried he might suffocate under the blanket, so I gently shook him. Tyler? Are you okay? From under the blanket, I heard his hoarse voice. I need time to process. Process what? First, he sniffled, voice muffled, I'm not adopted. Second, you like me. My face flushed red. A moment ago I'd confessed like a champ, and now I was a flustered mess. Who said I liked you? Suddenly, Tyler sat up, a little too quickly and nearly stumbled. His face was bright red, hair a mess, but his eyes were shining. You did. Just now. I heard it. Then, he grabbed my wrist, the grip was firm enough to make my heart skip a beat. There was no taking those words back now. I tried to pull away, but he didn't let go. I pouted. Fine. I said it. So what? What about you? Do you like me? Tyler's ears turned visibly red. He let go of my wrist but flicked my forehead lightly. Dummy. If I didn't have feelings for you, why would I have spent all these years doing everything for you, like some kind of loyal servant? I leaned closer, teasing. Then tell me, when did you start liking me? He turned away quickly. I don't remember. When? I asked softly. Tyler stayed quiet for a moment, his voice barely above a whisper. Honestly, I don't remember. Maybe it was the first time you shared your breakfast with me. Or when you stayed after school to help clean the classroom with me. Or maybe. He paused, looking at me. When someone was talking trash about me, and you scratched their face without hesitation. I quickly reached out to cover his mouth. Stop, that's enough. Tyler chuckled, and his lips brushed gently against the palm of my hand, a soft kiss. Startled, I pulled back like I'd just touched something burning, staring at him wide-eyed. But he continued. Maybe it was back in middle school, second semester of 7th grade, when I left for that summer camp in the next city. You ran after the bus, crying your eyes out, calling my name. His voice grew quieter, more fragile with each word. You fell, scraped your knee, but still got back up and kept running after me. I was speechless. I remembered that I'd fallen hard. My knee was swollen and scraped badly. Tyler had jumped off the bus and carried me all the way to the nurse's office. I'd cried the whole way there, soaking his uniform with tears and snot. Just because of that? I whispered, disbelieving. I was such a mess. You were kind of adorable. Tyler smiled gently. Stubborn. Always crying. But still trying to act tough. You were the first person who made me feel like I mattered to someone. Like maybe I could be needed too. My heart felt like it was melting. I opened my mouth to respond, but then noticed his face had turned even redder than before. I reached out, he was burning up. Tyler, your fever's getting worse. He mumbled something incoherent and then slumped sideways, right into me. I caught him quickly, panic bubbling up. I scrambled to find a fever patch and pressed it gently to his forehead. This is all your fault, he murmured, half asleep. Why do we always end up talking about stuff like this when I'm half dead? I let out a half laugh, half groan. Fine, blame me for everything. I went to the kitchen to get him some water. When I came back, he was already asleep. His face had softened, his eyebrows relaxed, lips curved into a peaceful little smile. I set the glass of water beside him, then sat down and quietly watched him. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. Turns out, we'd both been in love with each other for a long, long time, we just never realized it. Later that night, my mom mentioned that Aunt Linda's work had changed. She wouldn't be traveling as much anymore and could stay home more often. I mumbled as I ate dinner. Would have been nice if that happened earlier. But it didn't matter too much now. Tyler would be heading off to college soon, he wouldn't be home much anyway. But that was okay. Because from now on, I'd be right there beside him. After finishing my glass of water, I ran to my room and carefully picked out an outfit. I checked myself one last time in the mirror before heading outside. Then I stood beneath Tyler's window and called up. Tyler Carter. He opened the window and looked down. I mouthed the words. Let's go, it's date time. His face lit up. Hold on, I'll be right down. As Tyler rushed downstairs, Aunt Linda was in the middle of deep cleaning and called after him. Tyler, do you still want this ugly stuffed mouse? If not, I'm tossing it. Keep it. I'm keeping it forever, he shouted back. Didn't you used to hate mice after one bit you as a kid? Aunt Linda mumbled to herself, dropping the plush toy back into his room. I froze for a moment. If I wasn't mistaken, I was the one who gave him that stuffed mouse. It was a cute one, too. So he used to hate mice? As we walked side by side out of the apartment complex, I couldn't help asking. He smiled. I told you once, remember? If someone likes you, they'll treasure anything you give them. Just from that one sentence, my face burned red. Tyler and I were going to college in the same city, but he was on the east side while I was way out west. It took nearly 3 hours by subway, basically a long-distance relationship. On move-in day, he insisted on bringing me to campus. While he was carefully studying the campus map, an upperclassman walked up and asked, Hey, need any help? I shook my head politely. No, thank you. My boyfriend's right here. I pointed at Tyler. He froze. His posture instantly went ramrod straight. As we headed toward the dorm, he pulled my bright pink suitcase, while I followed behind with my backpack, noticing his ears were burning red. I poked his back. Why are you so tense? He didn't turn around. I'm not tense. Then why are your ears that red? It's the heat. I tilted my head up at the cloudy sky and tried not to laugh. Once we reached my dorm, Tyler helped carry my things all the way up to the room. He stood at the doorway like a bodyguard, checking the room layout and inspecting the bed for stability. All right. I laughed, gently pushing him back. If you keep inspecting everything, the security guard's going to think you've lost it. Only then did he stop. He pulled a neatly folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. What's this? My class schedule, he said, lips pressed together. The red circles are when I'm free. Blue is for labs. I unfolded it, the entire page was full of notes. He'd even drawn the fastest subway routes from his school to mine. All the food spots and fun hangouts along the way were marked too. I'll come visit on weekends, he said quickly, as if afraid I'd tease him, his ears turning red again. College life turned out to be way busier than expected. We couldn't see each other in person very often, but we never missed a nightly video call. My roommates used to joke around with me. You and your childhood boyfriend don't act like you're dating. It's like you're raising a virtual pet or something. On the screen, Tyler was slurping instant noodles when he heard what my roommate said. He choked on his soup and started coughing like crazy. When winter break came around, he dropped by my house to wish my family a happy new year. After the usual New Year greetings, he suddenly grabbed my hand and seriously told my parents. We're dating. My mom didn't even look up from the short video she was watching. She mumbled, scrolling on. My dad, on the other hand, looked up with wide eyes. Good grief. I thought it was something serious. He took a sip of tea and added. Honestly, the weird thing would be if you weren't together. Turns out, the feelings we thought we'd been hiding for so many years were always crystal clear to the adults around us. Tyler and I glanced at each other and laughed. Then he turned to look out the window. It's snowing. I rushed over and flung the window open. Snowflakes drifted gently through the air. And the neighborhood kids were already outside, running and playing in the yard. Come on, let's go. I called out. Let's join them. Yeah, he nodded. Once the snow thickens a bit, I'll build a giant snowman. Deal. But it's going to be you I'm modeling. Just a warning, I'm terrible at sculpting, so you'll look awful. That's fine, he grinned. He was always like that, quietly indulgent, never minding the little things. And somehow, I loved that most about him. Spring was on its way, bright and full of promise. The new year had begun. And so had our story.